Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how many of the Western rich, whether it be in the United States or Britain or here in Australia, most of the Western rich appear to support pretty much everything to do with globalization. And particularly they're dead set against those who would oppose globalization or oppose the key planks of globalization, such as hiring black lesbians as CEOs, mass migration of brown and black people to the West, and all those sorts of things to do with it's okay to rig elections if you can get rid of the politician you don't like, and it's not right to rig elections if it is a politician you like, and crazy stuff. It's almost like the wealthy have been infantilized to some degree. But why is it that they support globalization, or again the key planks of it, but much of the middle class don't? So let me have a little sort of talk about that. I'm just looking at some of the people who support it, or in fact, all of the people I know. There's something in common. They all have either A, jobs for life, or they've got nice tidy income coming from a trust fund. So in both, they don't have to worry about money. They don't have to think about money. They're going to cruise into comfortable retirement and all that sort of stuff. So they don't have to worry about producing or performing or delivering results. They don't do any of that. They just have to sort of sit there as passengers on the train as it goes along. As I say, either a job for life or a trust fund. There's no performance criteria they're subject to that would result in them getting fired or having their income reduced or something like that. So that's one thing. Everyone who's in support of that, who supports globalization and things like mass migration, they all have a job for life, and they don't have to worry about money. They own their houses. They have, again, this job for life, a good income. They've got a very substantial retirement income they're looking at. It's indexed for inflation and so on. So they have no money worries, and also they've got not simply money worries, but no performance worries. They don't have to work. How am I going to put food on a table? How am I going to give my family a good lifestyle? How am I going to make sure that Santa Claus brings plenty of presents at Christmas? There are people out there in the workforce that have to produce, they have to create wealth, they have to deliver results, they have to achieve something every day to keep their job. They're under some sort of performance criteria that if they don't meet it, they're going to lose their job, these sorts of things. Now, the people who have to produce and create and deliver and have performance criteria sort of placed on them, they're the least likely to be approving of globalization. Although you'll find outliers, but they're the least likely. You hardly find anyone in that category that would support or thinks globalization, things like mass migration and transgender bathrooms and all that. They don't think that. They think it's a waste. They think it's ridiculous and absurd. They don't like the idea their children are being read stories by transgender activists or radical lesbians or something like that. They don't agree with any of that, and so they're the ones that really oppose it. Now, increasingly, people in the government sector and related, and they've got jobs for life, so they tend to be favourably disposed to mass immigration of black and brown peasants into the West. Why I still don't fully understand why they would, but can't they look down the track to how it's going to be for their children in 20 years' time? But maybe not. Maybe they don't have that capacity or desire for foresight. But if we look at the money things, there's one thing: the job for life, not having to worry about money. And never having to worry about having to perform or do a good job or anything like that. There are some other things. I mean, looking at just a few people I'm thinking of now. They all live in houses, or their primary residence between $3 and $5 million. They've got then multi-million-dollar weekend houses in the equivalent of Aspen in the United States, or up in the Catskills outside of New York. They've got their weekend properties. They're driving motor cars worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or one I'm thinking of now, they're about $150,000 a piece. The two main cars in the driveway. They've got infinity swimming pools looking out over the ocean, and this is the sort of stuff, the yachts, the private aeroplanes, and these are all the toys and accoutrements that they have. So they're not in an area where masses of brown and black peasants arrive. There's no towering sort of concrete jungle apartment blocks full of very, very badly behaved peasants from third world countries. There's none of that. They're living in their acreage. Everyone around them is in acreage. Everyone around them is wealthy, and there's no sign. Now that doesn't mean that rich, Chinese Communist Party goons or Brahmin rich heavies haven't bought into the area and bought how they have, but they're very wealthy people themselves. They're quite well behaved. You don't really see much of them, so it's other than that you might see them at the local supermarket. But again, they're reasonably well behaved. They're very rich people. They're not people that are grasping for a dollar as the peasants would be. They're reasonably well mannered in the overall scheme of things. They're the very richest elite of China and India. So why wouldn't they be very calm and relaxed about their day-to-day existence? They've got vast sums of money. They get call girls coming around to their place. They're rich people and have everything they want. And again, all their toys are the toys that wealthy people have. They don't have to worry about money or anything of those sorts of things. Now, so the effects or any negative effects of the mass migration aren't something these people would see or feel. It's not going to affect them. They don't have to worry about money, so they don't have any concern that the people coming in are going to steal resources from them. That's not a factor. If the cost of living goes up as a result of all this mass peasant migration, again, that doesn't worry them because they've got almost a limitless supply of money coming in the front door. And if things cost 10% more this year than they did last year, well, it doesn't really affect them because they've got as much money as they want. Some of them are even struggling to spend what they've got. So again, they're not affected there. Their children go to the most expensive private schools. So again, the riffraff of the peasant hordes, black and brown peasant hordes that don't speak any English, that doesn't affect them. Their children go to the most expensive schools. The children from the rich Indians and Chinese are getting crash courses on speaking English. They're getting night school and weekend school, and they're getting every bit of assistance and help from their rich parents to make sure that they can fit into the school. The poor peasants, black and brown peasants going into the poorer areas, they can't afford to send their children to there, and they don't see the benefit even of using the free government services to help out and that score either. So it's really the children aren't being affected. The children will inherit very well, so they don't really need to work either or have to worry about where money's going to come from. Apart from that, as they're going to the welfare schools, they're meeting the children of all the presidents of the banks or future presidents of the banks and these sorts of things. So they're connected already into the elite network. So they'll probably be gifted prestigious, well-paid jobs anyway, just by their mere existence, rather than they're going to produce anything useful or create anything useful. So really, these people, as they look around them, they say, well, gee, our lives are really no different from what it was before. Sure, there are a few rich Chinese and Indians around, but they're pretty well behaved. They don't bother us. They keep to themselves, and who cares, and so on. So that's about the extent of it. They don't go to the poor areas, these people. They don't see the sort of squalor that the brown and black peasants bring with them from the third world shitholes they come from. So So they look at the whole thing of globalization, immigration. Oh, that's fine. Now we need to look also at these wealthy people have a lot of black and brown help come around to the houses, cleaners for the house, pool cleaners, people to do the gardening, or some of these people have elevators going up to their houses, and they want the elevators greased and oiled, and the bearings looked at, these sorts of things. And all the people that do this are brown and black. There's no white people doing this. So they get this, and they pay these people cash under the table. And so I don't know whether these people are even legal. These folks that do the work. So they see this as a bonus. One of them was complaining to me, before all these black and brown peasants came in, I had real trouble getting someone to come over and clean my house, or to clean my pool or something. So they're grateful, if you like, for all this surplus cheap labour that comes in, and they'll do the shitty jobs. Now they could easily get someone to clean the house. They didn't want to pay a rate that they should have said, well, I can't get some, for example, I can't get someone to do it for $100, so I'll pay 150, and then they would have got somebody, or kept on paying it until but instead of that, they say, no, I want bottom cheap, absolutely bottom of the bottom cheap. And if I've got to get a black and brown guy to do that, then fine, that's what I'll do. So so they see this anyway as a benefit. They've now got cheap labour and they also don't have to worry about these people complaining to authorities or anything like it. Was a white person might. So because a white person might know their rights, for example, their employment rights, or what happens if the white person injures themselves, is insurance to cover it. When they've got the black and the brown, but they don't have to worry about any of that sort of stuff. So that's good. So they see only the benefits, but they have to realise in the areas they live in, they don't have to realise or sustain or put up with any of the negatives, any of them, and nor do their children. It doesn't affect them at the shops. It doesn't affect them anywhere. So, and if you've got a certain amount of money to insulate yourself, then you tend not to notice it. But if you're making an average wage or something like that, or in that area, in that vicinity, then you've got a real problem, because you'll be living in an area that is going to be overrun by black and brown peasants who may live 10 or 15 to an apartment, or 20 to an apartment, and that changes everything. But these people don't know. And if you explain it to them that this is what happens, assuming they even accept that it does, then they say, well, that's the problem of the white people, because they don't make enough money, and the white people at the bottom of the barrel are just no more than the shit on my shoes anyway. So why should I care about them? They're just getting what they deserve. They should be having to put up with peasants like that, because that's if they were any better, then they would have had more money, and they could have paid to have a better quality of life, and away from the peasants. In fact, they haven't got that money. Well, that's their problem, and I don't care. That's the attitude that they have on that score, which is a bit scary. They've also been drilled heavily and they want to appear morally sort of pure and virtuous. So they don't want to appear as if they're being racist, and if they accept that black and brown people are overrunning certain suburbs and turning them into absolute shitholes, then well, wow, isn't that racist? Like wow, I don't want to be thought of as racist. So if I pretend that isn't happening and just deny that it's happening, then I'm not racist, and therefore I'm virtuous. So there's that loop as well. Now, I just looking at other people, they're pretty much in that same category. They love the idea. Some of them love the idea that they're really virtuous, and they're denouncing everyone else for being a racist. So, but really, they're just saying to the white working class, we're cutting you loose. You're not even worth pissing on anymore. And the fact that you're going to sort of disappear into the abyss, along with all the black and brown peasants are going to take over, don't care. That's your lot. And so this is the the bifurcation, if you like, of white society. How citizens of the same country see that they have nothing in common. Some years ago I was in. This is before Paris was overrun, but I was in Paris on business in this case. But so I was talking to a French guy, quite a refined French guy there, who spoke passable English, and my French isn't much good, so we had to converse in English. So, and we were getting on quite well, and we seemed to sort of share a lot of things in common. And he said, look, he said, the middle class people like you and me, we have more in common with each other, even though we're from different countries and went through different school systems. We have more in common with each other through our values than we do with citizens of our own country. So, he mentioned sort of French lower working class, and he had nothing in common with them. They're like an alien race as far as he's concerned, as he would be to them as well. And he said, whereas he said, I can relate to you because you've got the same middle class values as I do, or I don't know what we call it, sort of petit bourgeois, I suppose. And he said that's the line, and he was quite prescient in this. He said that's the line that the future will take, that people of similar values through their class upbringing and so on, and their attitudes towards hard work or whatever, whatever the attitudes are, will be in common. They'll have those things in common, and that will transcend national boundaries in the sense of what values do you share with your fellow citizens, and what values do you share with what effectively is your class, and the attitudes of that class. And he made a sort of interesting point, and I don't have a whole lot in common with the citizens in the lower working class citizens in my own country, but that doesn't mean that they should be cut loose, or that they lose the right to have a democratic voice, or that they're more or less than I am. I may think their manners are vulgar as he would or someone else would, but that doesn't make any difference. They are still fellow citizens, and when or if a war comes and the shooting starts, these middle class people and certainly the people in the rich suburbs, they're going to turn to those working class folks. There's this low life, the hoi polloi, and they're going to turn to them and say, "Oh, please take up a gun and go and defend me. Go and defend my multi-million-dollar mansion. Put your life on the line to defend my position of luxury." Now, some would say it's always been that way, but coming back to this idea of globalization, who supports it, those who lose the least because they have the least exposed, and they have no exposure to price rises, changes in the local area, sort of racial makeup. They have no exposure to cost of living changes. They don't have to perform and produce, and they're not held to performance criteria or standards. Those people, it's easy for them to support globalization because really not much changes for them. But for everyone else, things do change, and it's a difference there between having to get out there and make your way in the world, or not having to worry about it at all because of, for example, a well-paid job for life in the government or something. So those are some considerations, and that's my take on it. And you've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.